Here, I'm okay or not? Neither can I.
1 second.
Okay.
Here we go.
I was hoping you weren't speaking and we just couldn't hear
Nope.
you.
Nope. Here we go. In You are listening to the Carolina Catholic Media Network Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon. Operators are standing by right now to take your tax-deductible pledge. Call 1-800-857-2909. That's 1-800-857-2909. Or donate online at carolinacatholicmedia.org.
So, thanks for being here again and listening to us for this hour, learning more about anti trafficking efforts and the realities of human trafficking. And I'm so super excited because my friend and colleague in the fight against trafficking is here. We were just talking about how time goes by so quickly. And we did an event, and I'm trying to remember how long ago it was, but I bet you it was like 3 years or 4 years ago now, down in 4 years ago in Charlotte. Oh my gosh, like time is crazy. But I want to introduce everyone to my friend Darlene. So she comes to us for many miles away, but she is a survivor of sex trafficking. And I was hoping that, you know, you could share a little bit of your story and a little bit about how you were, I hate the word save, like how you became a survivor of human trafficking and escaped that evil, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Well, thank you so much, Tammy. Your work is such an inspiration to me. I'm so grateful for people who work in this area because I honestly didn't know people like you existed until after I was 18 years old. I had been abused sexually as a small child from toddlerhood. And it seems unfathomable to most people, but it happens, obviously. And I always grew up feeling worth less than other people, and I had a lot of self-esteem issues. My sister and I were both growing up in the same environment, and she was shut up and I was sit down, basically, because I stood quietly and took that whole passive kind of hide me, let me meld into the wallpaper kind of approach to life as a child. And she was the one falling down and spilling things and making noise and always constantly moving and trying to get attention that way. And I just wanted to be unseen and unheard. And that worked really well for me as a small child, but as a teenager, um, I guess it put a target on my head because there was this really handsome guy who came to my neighborhood, and he seemed real jovial, and he just talked with everyone in the neighborhood. There was no indication that I was his target. And when he'd come by on a Tuesday afternoon, for example, I never questioned why he wasn't at work. There wasn't that kind of a mindset. When you have sexual abuse as a small child, you don't develop that cognitive skill set very well. That executive reasoning gets delayed. And in my case, I just thought, hey, what a fun guy to hang out with.
Right.
And, he, like I said, he was friendly with all the kids in the neighborhood. So it wasn't long before I was in his car. I live in New Hampshire. So this was in Massachusetts, right on the New Hampshire border. And it was quite cold in the fall. And it took a long time in what we call grooming, which I don't know I wasn't able to hear what you had to
No,
say.
I didn't talk about the grooming process. No.
Yeah, so he
No.
took a long time with me to be friendly and befriend me, and sort of make innuendo and small talk in sexuality, and very slowly. It took 9 or 10 months before I was in his apartment, and then he would talk to me about maybe having sex with some other people in order to get, quote unquote, the things I needed. I was very poor. I didn't have proper boots. I didn't have mittens. And he always said, well, what, you could get the things you need, the things you want. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. That was not what I wanted to do. But when I turned 14, my birthday's in the winter, and my mom came home from running some errands, and I had really expected something for my birthday, but what happened was, in those months where I was being groomed, there was a lot of anger and a lot of angst coming up. And my relationship with my mom was not good. And I was throwing furniture around, and I was drinking while I was babysitting for the neighbors. And, I was a real embarrassment, and I was skipping school and doing drugs. And all of those behaviors were the way that I was trying to keep things quiet without saying, hey, I'm in real big trouble here.
Right. Right.
But I was the kid that you wouldn't let your kids hang out with. I was, totally rebellious, like I said, swearing, screaming, fighting with my mom. And none of that was in my little 14-year-old brain when my mom came home from running errands. And I stood across the table from her, fully expecting something for my birthday. And she looked very annoyed and reached in her purse because I said, hey, it's my birthday. She threw 2 crumpled up dollars on the table, and I was devastated. Mm-hmm. I just was so devastated. We had always made a big deal of birthdays in my family, and it was just very upsetting to me. Now, this man that I talked about, he was called Ace in the neighborhood, and he had given me his phone number. He never asked for mine, so he was not imposing at all. As I said, he sort of made it sound like, if you want to do this for the things that you need, you can make this decision. And I was 13 all that year that I'm talking about, that grooming went on. So this was my 14th birthday, and I called him and I said, I'm ready. I'll see your guy. And he brought me to his apartment that very afternoon, and I stood there, and the slush was 3 inches outside and just covering my feet and really going up into my shoes. And I looked in this 3-way intersection. There was a drugstore behind me. So there was no light in front of me, but always behind. And I looked out and I wondered, can anybody see me? And I had spent my whole childhood trying to be invisible. And now I was wondering if anybody could see me. And it seemed that no one could, that I had done such a good job. When he came sloshing around the corner and I got in his car, I don't remember if there was music playing or not, or if I said anything or I didn't. I remember staring at the stereo all the way to his apartment. And I got in there, and he introduced me to my first buyer. And as I said, he was thrilled because it was my 14th birthday. He thought that was just the greatest thing. He was giggling and having a good time. And I was very awkward and uncomfortable and cold. And I got through it, and I got a little bit of money and bought some more drugs and some alcohol to try to numb the pain of the rejection and the trauma that I had been through in my youth. And now this, and I just didn't know what to do with all those feelings. I stuffed them. As I said, I tried to do the drugs and alcohol to numb. And he said, hey, you want to come out again? And, I did a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And he sold me in houses and in hotels and back alleys where he ran a illegal gambling thing. And so I was performing sex acts in cars in the alleyways and stuff. And it was very terrible, actually. But a lot of times I would just, as I said, be so numb. I'd be coughing and choking and whatever. And some of the men were very brutal and didn't care that I was actually a little girl. They oftentimes just did what they wanted without regard to the fact that I was actually a person at all. And others were sort of strangely curious about why I was doing this. I had a doctor once ask me, so why are you doing this? I was 14 years old. At that time, I hadn't quite turned 15. And I remember laying there thinking, I don't know, nothing better to do. And I look back at it thinking, well, I could have been in school. I could have been, learning some new skill or even babysitting, different things I could have been doing, lots of different things I could have been doing. And this was an actual physician buying a little girl for sex. And that is stunning to me now. It wasn't, obviously I had buyers that were city councilmen and police officers and various skilled workers, whatever. And it was a tumultuous time. I was in and out of foster care. I was home sometimes. I was living in cars. I was sleeping outside a lot, and depending on the weather, I would cuddle up in the big Catholic church steps. There was a little alcove. I would kind of curl up in there sometimes for shelter. And there were people that were other vagrants on the streets that I could do some couch surfing with, or, hang out with them or whatever. I had various pimps. I had the one that I talked about he wasn't quite a Romeo pimp because he never tried to be my boyfriend.
Oh, really? Huh. I didn't realize that he didn't want to be. Oh, he didn't treat you like.
Not a real girlfriend. No, we were
Yeah.
quote unquote friends, and sex
Yeah.
was very casual with him. But he did have he had girls in the queue. And so he had another girl that he totally convinced that he was her lover and her girl, and she was his girlfriend, and yet he sold her too. And she was very convinced. When I remember when she got pregnant, she didn't know whose it was, and she was not at all in the mindset that this was he was using her. She really thought that he loved her. And I knew it even then that, he didn't really care about her, obviously, but that was a really strange situation even at the time. But we have our innate God-given connection with people when we have sex. And there's oxytocin and neurochemicals that are floating around in our bodies when we have sex. And whether we have sex as an adult or as a child, our body responds. And that's part of the bonding that tends to happen, and why a Romeo pimp can get away with that kind of thing. I also had what we call a gorilla pimp sometimes, because he was quite violent and oppressive, and he kidnapped me, choked me out if I didn't obey. He literally choked me until I passed out, and then revived me and choked me again because I said no when I woke up. And I had another man that he was actually my first buyer when I was almost 17. He got an apartment and he put 3 of us in there. And if we didn't behave, we weren't allowed to have food, or we weren't allowed to leave the house, or we wouldn't be allowed to come back, that sort of thing. It had a lock on the door that was automatic, and we weren't going to be allowed to go in. And so that was a weird way of controlling. At that time, he would give us drugs to keep us quiet. But I remember one time he went away for the weekend and left us with about half a pound of cheese and a small bag of carrots. And that's all we had for the whole weekend. And if we didn't stay there, like I said, if we left, we wouldn't be allowed to come back. So we stayed. And I think back now and I think, how did I not know that I had options? I could have left.
Right.
I could just leave.
Right. What you believe, you're told you believe.
Right.
With that kind of abuse, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So there was a lot of trauma to overcome. And then one of my buyers when I was young, he was one of my buyers when I was 14 a couple times, but he bought me a lot more when I was more like 16. And when I was 17 and a half, he said, hey, come into this apartment. It was rented in the name of a sheriff in the town. And he said, you'll be safe here. Just be you and me. And you won't have to go out on the streets anymore. And I thought, wow. Yeah, no more rapes, no more spending the night outside, no more being out in the weather, no more getting beat up just because I didn't have a place to stay. There was a group of girls who were riding around in a Trans Am just beating up any vagrants, and I was one of them. And I thought, look, this is like, now I think of it as being on the right side of a gun. I knew it was dangerous, but I thought I was on the right side of things and that it would be okay. I knew it was wrong too. I've done a lot of speaking over the years, and I've spoken at colleges and high schools. And one of the big questions I get was, you were 17, didn't you know it was wrong? Yeah, I knew it was wrong, but I was so far into this life and into this existence of not being a real person. I had no ID. I didn't go to school. I left school in the 6th grade. So I was not a real person. I had been just this vagrant living off the grid, a transient for so long by that time. even though I knew it was wrong, I went in, I got into the apartment. I got a kitten. I had some pans, some pots and pans. I didn't know how to use them. I never cooked, but it was, a place to stay. And I got a little job. I worked at like a pizza store. And I thought, wow, this is a whole new life for me. And then I got pregnant. And he said, if you don't have an abortion, I'm going to kill you myself. And I begged him to let me go. I said, I'm excellent at keeping secrets. I promise I can keep a secret. I'll never tell anyone. No, he slammed. And he was, he had my gorilla pimp, it was one of his flunkies. So I knew that I didn't have any place to go. He was connected with the police and he was connected with the underworld. And he was quite big in the mafia. There was lots of times when he had bags of money or bags of drugs, big bottles of Quaaludes and cocaine at those days. And there was lots and lots of illegal activity that I knew about. So I thought for sure I was going to die. I made the appointment for the abortion, and then somehow I wailed and cried myself to sleep that night. And I had a dream of the abortion procedure in color from the perspective of the womb. So like I saw half a little face, stubby little fingers, part of a rib cage. And I thought, oh my God, I can't do that. I woke up crying, screaming, crying, God, if you're real, I need you to show up. I can't do that. I'm going to die. I would rather die than do that. I'm going to die. And then I remembered one social worker who had been my key tracker when I was a runaway. She was one person that was kind to me, that seemed to go above and beyond. Like it wasn't just her job. She genuinely seemed to care. So I called her, and obviously, long story short, she found a home for unwed mothers for me. And I pretended to have an abortion that next day. And somehow I convinced him. I convinced him that I'd gone through with it. And basically he said, if you come back to this city, you're mine. I knew he would let me go because he had forced other girls to have abortions, and they were no longer the compliant slaves that he wanted. They were moody and, traumatized and obnoxious. And I knew that if I just told him that it was too much for me and I didn't ever want to see him again, that he would let me go, and he did. And I'm so grateful to God for rescuing me. And he did rescue me. I know you say, a lot of people don't want to be rescued. They don't want to talk about being rescued, but I was rescued, and I'm grateful for it. I have my baby. She's a wonderful person. She has now 2 children that I babysit for. And I ended up having 4 more babies. And so I have 5 children and 5 grandchildren now. And I love my life. I'm grateful for everything that God's brought me through. And I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to talk to the communities that I get to talk to about trafficking. I do a lot of teaching whenever I can. Been spending the last couple of years more with family, but I do some workshops and I do speak quite a bit. And I'm so grateful for people like you, Tammy, who do that teaching on a regular basis, who provide for the needs of others. Since I'm not in a position to do a whole lot of actual hands-on care, I stow away a little money each month for ministries in my area to be able to, hand out bags to women on the street, or I actually support the home for unwed mothers.
Wow.
That rescued me. I give them a little bit every month, and I'm so grateful to God for being able to do that.
Wow.
And I think too that it's really important for people to understand that life isn't easy for any of us. And I struggle a lot still. I struggle with a lot of issues related to all those traumas. But if it weren't for people like you reaching out and supporting people like me, then I wouldn't be able to reach out to others and support them as well. I do quite a bit of, one-on-one counseling and talking with people who have gone through similar things, and praying. I'll do a lot of praying with people. And so it's very important that ministries like yours in Ursus continue. And obviously Catholic ministries obviously are doing tremendous work in this realm. And I'm very, very grateful. And I hope that everyone listening will hear and respond with whatever it is that God puts on their hearts. If he tells them to give a little bit of money each month, or he tells them to reach out to you and see how they can get more involved, or reach out to the ministry that's doing the Share-A-Thon. It's really, really important, because there are so many hurting people out there. And as I said, I didn't know people like you existed. I did go to tent ministries as a teenager, but we went for the coffee and the donuts, and we listened, and we did listen. And I know that word got in my heart, but really I didn't know that there were people who would open their hearts and minds and wallets to help a girl like me. So I thank you. I really, really appreciate you, Tammy. Thank you.
No, I'm so blessed to call you a friend, and someone that we can pray together. And I'm so grateful for our friendship, because, we have had different lives. We've both had our different types of trauma. And I think we both realize what we get by giving, and, to share with everyone, like, you don't need to be a victim of trauma to help.
Right.
You just have to have a big heart. The woman who helped you when you were pregnant and just knew that you just couldn't go through without abortion. It didn't matter what her background was in. It mattered that she had a heart to be there for you when you were ready. When it was your time to reach out to her, she was there for you. And so, thank you for saying that, because I do believe the people listening, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe God puts people at the right place at the right time for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
And it's either, it's to do something, to donate, or to open a door for something else, and so I applaud you for being so vocal about it, because I know it takes a lot out of anyone to sit and talk about trauma. It never is easy, and it's draining, and I know that it's exhausting, and I'm very thankful for you. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tammy. And thank you for the ministry that, is it David doing?
Oh yeah, with the Catholic, yeah. So yeah, David's a great guy. I've gotten to know him over the years with the Catholic News, and yeah, I'm very grateful for this ministry as well. So yeah, I know that they're running this Share-A-Thon to get donors, and I do believe everyone has a little bit to give, even during these crazy times, because it's the nonprofits that really are the ones that are the doers. They get it done. So I have about 5 more minutes. Did you have anything else you wanted to share before?
I think if there was anything, obviously it would be getting education out there to the communities and to the schools. And I know that it's really hard to think about how young I was, but the problem is that now they're even younger. The average age for kids being attacked by, and I say attacked because I feel like it's an assault on them, being attacked by porn through their devices is about between 9 and 11. And so we've got to really get the word out to these kids that the media is not their friend. They need to be more careful with their devices, and their parents need to have all their passwords. And so in order to prevent them being attacked by porn, putting safety devices on, and being very open and honest with our kids about the fact that there are bad guys out there. And obviously when we talk about, we used to talk about the dragons and the dragon slayers, that it's not that we want to know there's a dragon, but we do want to know that there's a dragon slayer.
Right.
There are always going to be dragons, but there are also dragon slayers. There are victors in this fight against evil dominating our children. And to prevent the trauma from happening in the first place, in my mind, is really the best and most important thing to do. And I think we do that by being parents, but it's everywhere. And like I said, it's attacking them through all of their devices. I remember when my son was 9 years old and we rented a VHS. There was porn on that VHS.
Oh my gosh.
It showed 3 times before it deleted itself. So it was somehow programmed into the VHS.
Oh my
showed it to me. He said, Mom, what is this? And he showed it to me. And then the next time I tried to show my husband, it started and then deleted itself.
Wow.
So that was happening even back then,
Oh my
and
God.
so it's super duper important that we get out into the communities and teach people what this is and how to come against it. And I
Don't be
think,
afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid to say, the reason why I'm against porn is because it pollutes sex. It
right.
gives women a horrible image about themselves. The women who are engaging in porn have a literal or figurative gun to their head.
Mhm.
That just how many women have forced abortions, like almost happened to you because of pornography. And it's not an innocent it's not innocent in any capacity. It has so many victims, and we're over sexualizing our children. We're normalizing sex at a very young age, and there is repercussions of that. I'm going to share my number real fast in case people want to text me to get involved, or maybe if they have questions for you later. My cell phone number, and I'm sure David will share it hopefully online, is 704-780-2933. So again, that's 704-780-2933. And if you want to get involved in any capacity, learn more about Ursus. I knew this hour was going to fly by. Gosh, there's so much to talk about. I mean, I talked about a little bit about being involved in Respect Life, and that's how I kind of stumbled upon the reality of human trafficking. But really, you and I both know we could talk every day for an hour and find something new in some capacity to talk about.
Mhm.
So thank you for joining me today. It's good to see your face again.
Good to
And
see you.
yeah, and thank you for being here. And I know we need to wrap up, so thank you to all the listeners. And please reach out to the ursusinstitute.net, www.ursusinstitute.net. You'll find our email address and phone numbers. And again, if you have any other questions for Darlene, I'll definitely connect you. So have a blessed day, and I know God protects those who will look after and protect others. So thank you.
Thank
Ladies,
you.
ladies,
Thanks.
thank you so very much. This has been enlightening, and it's such important work that you're both doing. I am profoundly sorry for the trauma that you have both been through. On behalf of myself, and I'm sure all the listeners here at the Carolina Catholic Media Network, we just want to thank you for your your raw honesty, and really what it takes to combat and defeat human trafficking in the world. So thank you so much for your important work, and it's been a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you.
Well, folks, we are going to just head back over to the network here in just a few minutes. We are going to be talking with Dr. Matt Harrison. He is going to be on this last hour of our first day. I can't believe we're saying that, but here we are. He's our cleanup hitter, so we're super excited to have him. He's in studio, and we're going to go to a break right now. We'll come back and be ready to rock and roll in just a few minutes.
Next hour, we're going to look at an idea which has been popular for over a century now. It's the idea of socialized medicine. I want to take a look at where it's working, where it's not working,